But on the other hand, it was also, oh my God, there's so many people. They're all looking at my work. What do I do? And suddenly my voice has a little bit more of an impact because it's hitting so many more people.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. My name is Jeremy Segal, and you're listening to the Why Influence podcast, where we interview influencers about their why and their motivation for influencing. Today, our guest is Sam from SAMBEAWESOME. She's an artist and writer, author. She has over 700,000 views on YouTube and over 350,000 views on DeviantArt. And she is also active on Twitch and most other social platforms. Without giving any more spoilers, let's just jump into the interview. Until then, enjoy the beautiful intro music.
Welcome to the Why Influence podcast, where we deep dive into the why behind some of the world's most influential people. Why do you influence? Why are you an influencer? We hope to inspire you to share your voice with the world. And now, your host, Jeremy Segal.
Sam, thanks so much for coming on the show. Before we jump into your why, I'd like to ask you a few questions so our audience can learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal background and what you did before becoming a social media influencer?
I was probably very, very young. I think various kinds of social media came in around the time that I started going on the internet with things like Neopets, various other online art communities. I got into DeviantArt around middle school, been in social platforms for about as long as I've been on the internet.
Okay, so you've been on social platforms for a pretty long time. Can you tell us a little bit about what social platforms you spend the bulk of your time on?
Probably my biggest platform is my DeviantArt. For people who don't know, it's like an online art community. It's got a whole bunch of different kinds of artists on there. That one I've been using for, I believe, over 10 years now. That one I'm pretty much on every day. YouTube is another big one. Other platforms I'm on are Twitter and Twitch as well.
You've been posting content online for a long time now, so it may be difficult to recall, but do you remember why you started posting stuff online?
I definitely had completely different reasons than I'm doing it now, and it definitely evolved over time. But starting out, I joined DeviantArt, the first kind of, I guess, real social media platform that I joined in middle school. So it was mostly just post my art, share with my friends, because my friends all had DeviantArts, and we just kind of looked at each other's art. It was just another way to see our art and interact that way. And then it sort of evolved as time went on.
Okay, so you're posting stuff online mostly to share it with your friends and art community. Was it a conscious choice to become an influencer at any point, or how did that pan out?
It wasn't at all. It just sort of happened. Just as time went on, I started to, I was much younger and I was seeing some numbers go up and I'm like, this is exciting. I feel validated. I wanted to see things grow. So I tried to interact more with various communities, trying to get myself out there. I had no idea what I was doing. Still kind of have no idea what I'm doing. It just sort of exploded, I believe, around the end of 2015 to like the start of 2016, where it just, so many people just started flooding in. That was definitely a moment for me.
When you started seeing the flood of people coming in for your artwork, what was it like for you?
It was just so crazy. I remember being so kind of overwhelmed at the time because I had so many different things going on in my mind. On like the one hand, it's like, wow, this is really cool. I'm suddenly having like a lot of people see my work and they really like it and I can have more conversations. Like my stuff's getting out there. Not gonna lie, I was also a little greedy and I was like, this is, really cool. I'm getting attention. My numbers are going up sort of thing. But on the other hand, it was also, oh my God, there's so many people. They're all looking at my work. What do I do? And suddenly my voice has a little bit more of an impact because it's hitting so many more people. So now it's like, I don't know, I was kind of like a deer in the headlights at certain points. What do I do? No one talks about this really. It was all over the place.
So in that moment that you're talking about, did you ever question whether you're ready to move forward with what's coming to fruition, or what was going through your head at that moment?
I had moments of it. I also just wanted to embrace it and have fun with it. Back and forth, all over the place, trying to enjoy the ride while also trying to play the game of social media marketing, stuff like that. Like, I also felt that pressure to keep it up, to maintain it. What do I do to keep things going? How do I make sure that the people who are following me are happy and that they'll stay? It was quite stressful at the time. It's definitely different than how I feel now.
It sounds like you had a bit of change in mindset going through this transition. So how has being an influencer changed you? Thinking back to who you were before you were influencing to who you are today, how has this process changed you?
I definitely went through a bunch of different phases, even before that whole big explosion, where just having fun, making friends. I didn't understand what I could have been doing at the time, and I just playing around. I was trying to play the numbers game, but I had no idea what I was doing. Just the boom. Do I need to take this more seriously? I need to produce good stuff, stressing about the marketing and everything. And then things started to sort of teeter off, I guess. And so then it's kind of like where I had to think about what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. What does this mean? Why am I doing this? What is this giving me? And so I kind of had like a shaky road around that point. And it was pretty soon after, I think it was like a year or two after that whole boom, I need to figure this out because I'm starting to feel kind of down about myself and what I'm doing. And there's confusion. What direction am I trying to go? As time went on and I started to think about more about what I wanted, I sort of came into where I am about now, which is focusing on myself, which is important, the community that's there, and try to make things more personable and more interconnected versus just the numbers game before.
Okay, so at some point you shifted to focusing more on yourself and on your community. So it seems like that your why has changed over time. Do you mind going into that a little bit and explain how your why has changed, maybe from when you started to where you are today?
It's definitely changed over time. Earlier, it was just not always, but let's be honest, it's quite often I felt that whole greedy numbers thing of like, oh yeah, I'm making it, I'm seeing stuff go up, it's really fun, more people are seeing my stuff. But now I can't focus on that because it didn't bring me anything. I didn't really get anything out of that because if you only play the numbers game, then you're losing every time you're either not gaining or even losing those numbers. And that has a huge impact on your mental health. That can bring about all sorts of problems. So I saw that happening. I need to remember why I'm doing this again. I need to remember that I enjoy art, and art's something that I started doing for myself. And I want to go kind of back to that. On top of that, going back to having art be for myself, I can also now make it something with the community, which is why I started being more interactive with things like Twitch, because then I had the chance to not just do art for myself, but also share that moment live with other people. I think that made a big difference. I think it changed kind of everything, starting to do live streams. I found something I didn't know that I had. I kind of didn't have it before I started doing live streams because it's a million times different to upload a video or to film a video, edit video, publish the video. That's all just by yourself. And then you post the video and then you just kind of wait. That was my interaction, was just the waiting. And then there's a comment. I'm not saying I'm not grateful for the comments. I definitely do appreciate them. It's just a million times different when you're doing a live stream and I say something and there's just an immediate response and we can have this conversation. That has made things a lot more meaningful to me to have that connection.
That's really interesting that you have a distinction between comments that have limited length threads or live interaction where you can actually have some dialogue. I think it's great that you're focusing on community. And related to community, what's a memorable story of someone you've influenced that's come up over the years since you've been sharing online?
It makes a difference that people find friendship. What I try to encourage is people interacting with each other if they want to be open, not feel like they have to keep things inside, and we can share our stories. And it's just been really cool to see the friendships growing basically because these people found me. I started, putting content out there and then they interacted with that and then they sort of interacted with each other. And then now they're really good friends and we have this nice sort of community really actually building because it doesn't feel like a community when it's just I post something and people comment because nobody's really interacting. DeviantArt is a little bit like that where I post, people interact, but they don't interact with each other. But then YouTube, there's a little bit more interaction between each other. It kind of depends. But on Twitch, or it doesn't have to be Twitch, it could be anywhere, like where you're live streaming. you kind of have to interact. That has just been really cool to see friendships building. And I've had people feel like their lives have sort of changed, where they're like, I can be open, I can talk about my problems. One person who I consider my friend was going through a lot of hard times every once in a while, and she's just so happy to be able to talk so freely and be open, and just us being accepting.
It's interesting how you're finding that interacting with people on DeviantArt and YouTube, you're meeting people, but it's at a bit of a slower pace and not as interactive as if you're meeting people on Twitch. Now, everybody knows that creating content is a lot of work. So have you ever struggled with motivation? And if so, can you share an example of a time when you struggled and what you did to power through it?
It pretty much goes with that ebb and flow of earlier, where I just had the wrong reasons. I'm not saying like that my wrong reasons are wrong reasons for other people. They were wrong for me. The focusing too much on the numbers game, worrying too much about, is this going to be something worth posting? And most of the time I just kind of put something out there, even though it's not the best, just thinking about that game and that being my reason of trying to get big. Why am I trying to get big? Just to be popular? Focusing on that it crushed my motivation a lot, because there's no real satisfaction that you could get from that, because it never ends. And unless the numbers are going to go to those absurd things that you bring up in your head, it's going to have to keep going up. Okay, sure, you make this many views on a video, but then the next one's got to make this much more, kind of thing. And it's unrealistic and it's not fair to yourself. That really destroyed my motivation. I had to be like, this is not working. I shifted instead to try and think about more. Like, I went through a lot of self-internal processing too, about what I needed, what would make me happy, because you can't keep looking at it. You can't check it like 100 times a day. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. And you need to think about something else to look at, to focus on. You need to find some energy elsewhere. And I think if you get involved with a community that you have, no matter the size, I mean, if it's just one person, that's one person. Or if it's just with yourself, you can interact with yourself. Like, you can start growing a relationship with yourself. I think that is just something that's so much more healthy than, oh, I need this many views. Oh, I need this many likes. Oh, I need this many comments. That never ends. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
That's some powerful advice that I think that any new content creator should take to heart. Motivation is definitely something that I think everybody can relate to in regards to content creation or entrepreneurship or anything really in life. But what do you find most challenging about being a content creator aside from motivation?
It's organization, time management, that sort of thing. I am awful at scheduling, getting stuff done in a reasonable amount of time. I'm pretty scattered when it comes to my projects and my focus, so it's kind of difficult to find a method that works for me. But that's probably something I've been struggling since like the beginning of time. I've just been being organized, having a schedule, that sort of thing.
Time management is a biggie, and it sounds like you've thought about it a lot. So is there anything that you've discovered that's helped you from a time management perspective?
It's been sort of various things that have worked off and on with me. I think because I'm so kind of scattered as a person, that has to change every once in a while, or my brain's like, okay, bored now, don't feel like doing this. Making time slots, saying, okay, it's 1 o'clock, I'm just going to be doing this. Just have that throughout the day. That's worked for some time until my brain just kind of was like, all right, next thing. Focusing on one project at a time, that's what I'm trying to do now. Another thing that's helpful is to just sort of have a couple things that you plan on getting done that day. And by a couple, I do mean just a couple. Plan out a week ahead, have 2 or 3, maybe 4 things per day. If you get them done and you want to, you can, skip ahead, start bringing things up. But I think if you have too many things on one day, then you're going to beat yourself for not finishing those things. It was kind of unreasonable to begin with. So that's why I recommend just a few things per day so that you can accomplish them and you can get that sense of achievement. And if you really want to, then you can work ahead.
Making a plan and focusing on one thing at a time is great advice. Talking about time, looking at where you are today, what do you find most inspiring about your future? What goals or dreams do you have related to the path that you're on?
It's probably just kind of expanding on what I'm doing now. I'm having so much fun being more interactive with my community. I would just love to meet more people because they share their stories with you and you get to hear their experiences. You get to see their art journeys. Like they share their artwork with me and I'm like, oh, I'm working on something on stream. Share with me what you're working on now. And then a lot of the time we're working on stuff together at the same time. It's so cool. You get to see their art grow. You get to see them grow as a person. They get to join you because it's not just about me. me anymore. It feels so much more. Where like before, when I was just, the numbers game, that sort of thing, it was just me. Like everything was about me. And that made me unhappy, shockingly. Having that community, making it about us instead, being able to just talk, it's made a huge difference. And I would love to see that expand in that way.
I think it's great that this shift to focusing on community has had such a positive impact on you, and I think it's smart to continue growing down that path. That's great advice to any new influencer as well, because it sounds like it's not that difficult to just have one person that you can interact with on something like Twitch. Speaking of advice for new influencers, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming an influencer, or someone who's entry-level influencing and is looking for some useful tips to help take them to the next level?
You could be like the staple advice of like post often, get a schedule, prepare things ahead of time. You'll find a million articles about that online for every social media platform. There's strategies for everything. I think something that needs to be discussed more, and it's something that even came up recently in conversation, it just comes up all the time, is your health. I think that's something that is just really not talked about. I'm sure you heard of the whole YouTube burnout last year and how that was a huge thing. Before, no one really thought about it. You got to pump stuff out every day because that's what social media demands. But you don't think about the effects that it can have on not just your physical health, but your mental health. That's something that especially young people nowadays need to hear more about, which is take breaks, take vacations, take time off. Don't just sit for like 24 hours in front of your computer. You need sleep, you need water, you need food, you need to stretch, you need to get out of your chair every once in a while. You need to make sure that you're on top of your body and you're on top of your health, because this stuff is just gonna chew you up and spit you out. I don't want to see that happen with more people. I've seen it happen so often in every community. You don't need to go 24/7. That to be mindful just about yourself and your needs, and that it's okay, it's not weak, it's not failure, it's not any of these bad things. You want to be able to be doing this as long as possible, and having a healthy lifestyle is going to help you lead to that.
To all the influencers out there, you just heard SAMBEAWESOME say it. It's okay to take care of your health. I think it's a great reminder that a lot of influencers need to hear. Other things that are healthy is doing something that you love. So what's your favorite part about being a content creator and influencer?
Just in general, if I'm just kind of by myself working on something, then it's just that. It's the creation process. It's being able to draw whatever I want, to write whatever I want, to sort of expand myself that way. The community aspect, having friends, making friends, talking with people, hearing their stories, seeing their art. Those are my big things that I really love and appreciate.
Doing and learning what you want while also building a community of like-minded people. Who wouldn't love that? Sam, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your why. I'd like to end the episode with giving you the opportunity to talk about your brand, your social accounts, your books, and anything else you'd like to share with our audience.
You can pretty much find me at almost anywhere for searching SAMBEAWESOME, S-A-M-B-E awesome, all one word. I'm pretty much basically on every social media platform, all the big ones at least. Projects that I'm working on now, the biggest one is a comic I'm working on. This is kind of my first long form comic ever, and I've been live streaming the process. That's been a whole wild adventure. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be starting next month. I'm not sure when you're posting this. It's going to be starting in April. That's on Tapastic, I think it's called, and Patreon, but you'll find it if you just search me up, guaranteed. If you want to watch me live stream, that's at SAMBEAWESOME because the username was taken.
SAMBEAWESOME, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey. I hope you have a great remainder of 2019, and I'm looking forward to seeing your influence and community keep on growing.
Yeah, thanks, you too.
That's it. Interview is over. Thanks, Sam, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you sharing your why with us. I think it's important for our listeners to take away that community is really important. Sam talked a lot about how the numbers game was not keeping her happy. If you're looking at all the likes and comments and how many followers you have and how that's growing and progressing, you're just going to be stressed out and you're not going to feel fulfilled. But if you focus on community, then you can just have one follower and feel more fulfilled than if you had 100,000 followers with zero community. So community, no matter how large or small it is, sounds like that's something that's really important to social media influencers, and Sam really emphasized that a lot in this episode. Another thing I'd like to emphasize here is how much Sam talked about health and how it's not really talked a lot about in regards to influencers, but people are just burning themselves out. They're not taking breaks, they're not eating, drinking water, they're posting content all the time because that's what social media demands. And it's really important to take breaks, stand up, stretch, eat, take vacations, and manage your health because it's important to be healthy and live long, healthy lives. That's something that Sam really emphasized in this episode that I think that it should be another major takeaway for you guys. As you guys know, I'm on my own journey doing this podcast, and I actually re-recorded myself in this episode. So everything that I said the first time I did the actual interview, I went in and re-recorded what I said just in a more confident and concise manner, and then inserted it over where I talked before. That way it sounds more fluid. I never did interviews before, and I didn't like how I sounded, and I gave myself permission, as I talked about in episode 0, to edit it in the first 3 episodes. So the first 3 I did that for, and then after that it's just, if I make a mistake, it's a mistake and I have to live with it and move on. After episode 3, then it's a lot more raw and true to who I am. But it was a big learning experience re-recording myself. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, then please subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. If you haven't left us an iTunes review yet, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. It helps us get bigger and better guests on the show. And please keep listening because there's a lot of awesome content that's coming out. I've recorded 7 episodes as of recording this outro. There's some really valuable content that's being shared with these influencers, and I don't want you guys to miss out on it. So please keep listening to the episodes. Also, if you want to find more about Sam and SAMBEAWESOME, go to our website, whyinfluence.com, whyinfluence.com, and look at episode 001. You'll find the show notes with all the links to SAMBEART's, SAMBEAWESOME's social accounts. You'll find more information and how to contact her and follow her. So please go there, check her out, check out her material, and follow her on all the different social platforms because she makes some awesome artwork. If you have any artwork that you want done that isn't their style, feel free to contact her and get some commissions made. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.